Hey folks, and welcome to our little skin smoothing tutorial. I would stress before we begin, or if any outsiders from my class that not in my class are seeing this for the first time, there are many ways to smooth people's skin in Photoshop. I'd say the reigning hotness outside of automated tools would probably be frequency separation. Frequency separation is where you split your image into kind of two layers. You have a layer that has all your texture, and you have a layer that has all your color information. The method we're about to do is kind of similar. It's kind of like a little less sophisticated, but it has the added advantage of taking the color layer and blurring it a bit. So if you do straight skin smoothing, straight skin frequency separation, that underlayer is not blurred for you, so it's a lot more work sometimes. So this is a good introduction, and frankly, it still has lots of use in my own workflows. So anyways, so the other thing to stress is that this should be probably one of the final things that you do. So if we look at our layers palette over here, we see that this is already a work in progress. So this is building up on top of all the other things that we do. You do not want to, and the final effect of a skin smoothing is you have a lot of blurriness and so on to contend with. So you don't want to start retouching on softened skin. It's just not a good practice. So, and the other thing to stress is you still want to do your wrinkle reduction and take care of, spots on the face and just general blemishes and under eyes and that sort of thing. So you want to have something good going. And so, without further ado, so you've got your general retouches in place. You've decided that your particular portrait might benefit from a little bit of skin smoothing. So you want to make sure you have just the topmost layer selected. And what we want to do is we're going to be doing a kind of image flattening where we're consolidating everything we've done so far onto one layer, and we're going to be floating it at the very top. So this is one of the reasons you want to have the topmost layer selected, just in case the layer gets placed somewhere else in the stack. And you'll essentially be doing that twice. And then we'll be renaming the layers and so on. Anyways, so there's a few different ways to do it. So the full keyboard shortcut would be, on a Mac, it would be Command plus Option plus Shift plus the letter E. On a PC, it would be Control plus Shift, press Alt plus the letter E. Or in your little flyaway menu here in the layers palette, you could go down and where you see merge visible, this is almost the whole shortcut, but you need to add the option key on top just to make it complete. And so that's what I'll do. Hold on to the option or alt on the PC and then click on merge visible. And then you can see that everything here has been floated on top to its own layer. And we're going to do that one more time. So again, holding on to the option. All right, so we're going to hold on to the option key again. Press merge visible. And once again, we got two layers. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do, this one layer here is called layer 2, or the topmost layer. We're going to call it texture. And we're going to turn off its visibility. We're going to select the layer right underneath it. And you could call that color or blur. Traditionally, I've always just called it blur. And so we're going to be applying a filter called surface blur. And it's important that it's not Gaussian blur. And we'll go to the filter menu. And we'll choose blur, surface blur. Now the numbers that are going to show up are probably one of my standard numbers that show up all the time. Okay, so actually no, it's a little bit further off. So radius is the amount of blur that gets applied, and threshold is sort of Photoshop's way of honoring the edges in your photos. So the main advantage using surface blur is that your skin blurs within itself, and it doesn't tend to travel into the hair. The hair doesn't travel into the background and that sort of thing. You can still make out the lips in much greater detail, but if I lowered the threshold down to its minimum of 2, it would almost be like no blur was applied because Photoshop is getting really stingy with what it determines as an edge. And if you go all the way to the far end at 255, this now is this is pretty much the equivalent of the Gaussian blur filter. So things get really smudgy the higher up I go in the radius. Now everything is just like Vaseline over the lens. Again, threshold and radius work together. For a portrait, a high resolution portrait where the head takes up, say, the upper half of the photo, I'm usually happy with around, well, let's go like 39 or so. And threshold, it can vary, but 30 is kind of like a good all-purpose number. So if we do that, okay, and so you can see, like, look at all that blurring. Now, her nose is blending in to the rest of her face and so on. And we're going to have to do a lot more protection afterwards, but you know, again, you can still make out a lot of essential details. So 40 in the radius and 30 in the threshold. And we're going to click OK. Now, this is, you know, obviously fake. And one always has to be wary of going too far. So a good secondary step at this point is you take your opacity of your blur layer and bring it to 50%. And okay, that's fine. So things are looking... Actually, things are looking quite a bit better, but bear in mind the hair, the blazer, everything has kind of received a blur, so we need to protect that. And the other thing we want to be worried about is, you know, she does have natural pores and things like that, right? So we don't want that texture to completely disappear, and so that's where we recruit our texture layer, which we're going to turn the visibility back on. Now again, this was the pre-softened face that we're going to be looking at. And we're going to use a filter called Filter Other in High Pass. Now High Pass is going to turn this particular layer into kind of like a pure gray, bumpy looking thing with some edge details. So let's run High Pass. 5.2 around there is where I usually stop. I don't want it to get kind of like a rainbowy. So 5 is usually a good overall number. And so this is, once we change our blend mode, this is going to basically reintroduce some important texture that is going to interact with the blurred skin tones underneath. So hopefully kind of giving us the best of both worlds. But we're going to press OK. And not looking so hot so far. So we have to change the blend mode of this particular layer to soft light, and that is going to make the most of like the white and black tracing going on. So where it says normal, I'm going to choose soft light. And so there we go. And we can take a look, turn it on and off, and you can see essential kind of texture details. A little bit of realism is kind of coming back into the picture. So that's good, but we still want to make sure, you know, the cumulative effect of this kind of blurring is to just kind of subtly rob the eyes of details. So we do want to bring back other things back in relief. So we essentially have to protect our, you know, we just want the skin to get the smoothing and not the eyes, not the hair, not the eyebrows and that sort of thing. So we're going to group these two layers together and we're going to add a hide all mask. So I'm going to shift, select texture and blur. Go down to the group folder. Let's rename it Skin Smooth. And you can add your mask from the bottom of your layers palette. And if you hold on to the Option or Alt key, when you add this layer mask, it will basically be filled in with black. So all of this work that we've done so far is now going to totally disappear. So holding on to Option or Alt key, left click. There we go. And now the final stage is to just brush in with the color white. So you can see our mask here, right over here. So it's black, so everything has disappeared. And we got B for brush. So my foreground color right now is black, so I'm going to hit the letter X. My radius size is pretty good to start, but my flow is 10%. So I'm going to put that flow to 100. Not 90. Okay, cool. And you start brushing in. And my mode is set to normal. Okay, that's good. My brush mode is often set to darken, and it takes me a little while for that to sink in. And I'm going to try to avoid like nostril details, like sort of brush in the upper lip area. Like so. brush into the skin. Now, after a while, you're going to start to kind of forget where you've been brushing. So you get the backslash key to get the mask view. So, and you can totally work in this mode. Again, I like to leave like a little bit of the smile edges of the cheeks and so on. Because again, the cumulative effect can often be quite soft, which is good. I mean, we want soft skin, but we don't want a soft portrait, because then that just doesn't look professional anymore. And again, the skin. I like to protect the jawline somewhat. And so for this, I might do a little trace. So again, this is the backslash key that gave me this view. Protect the necklace. I can be kind of crude here though. Like I don't have to be super precise right to the edges. Let's get a big brush. Okay. Like so. There we go. Clean that up. So backslash key gets me out there. Of course, the option left click gives you this kind of view. So you can kind of say, oh, I got some sort of white areas that need to be cleaned up. Like so. Your eyes won't really pick up on this kind of subtlety, but it's good. It's just good practice. Okay, clean that up. Those areas should be pure white. And backslash key gets us out. Backslash key again. So let's be good Photoshop users and get under the eye. But again, notice, you can kind of get this sort of detail sort of showing that some facial lines are important to protect. So, and let's turn this on and off. And then, so again, you can see some skin shine has been taken care of. Just a general softening, but it's still realistic. Should you find your own attempts get a little too fake, there's nothing stopping you from taking that entire folder and reducing the opacity by, 20% or so. If you go too low, the practical effect of your skin smoothing, might disappear entirely. But, used judiciously, and a little can kind of help out. Okay, so we got that about there. Okay, and so that, voila, behold one of several methods out there for smoothing skin. Again, this borrows some concepts from frequency separation, simplifies it a bit, and then adds some blurring as just part of the process. So, and it comes in handy. It's sometimes just one of many tools I have, but I've been using it these many years. Anyways, that is that for now, and I hope this made things a little simpler for you.